The False Claims Act was passed more than 150 years ago to prevent corporations from ripping off the government and taxpayers. And big business is now flooding D.C. with corporate money to weaken this law. Farron Cousins from Trial Lawyer Magazine joins me to tell us what's happening. No surprises here either. Right. Every time we do one of these ugly stories about Pfizer, they're always at the edge of ugly. Here, this is a company, Pfizer. They were hit for $2.3 billion for fraud just recently, okay? Yeah. And now, and the government collects $67 billion a year from all of these corporate fraudsters stealing from taxpayers. But now the big effort is to end that, right?
Right. You actually had Republican Senator Chuck Grassley, of all people, has introduced legislation that would strengthen the False Claims Act because over the years, court decisions have basically defanged that entire act. And I'll get to that in a minute. But Chuck Grassley says, listen, I understand fraud against the government's a bad thing. I've got this bill, bipartisan effort, Democrats signed on as well, to say we're going to strengthen the protections. We're going to make it even harder for employees to retaliate or employers to retaliate against employees. You know, we're going to strengthen those protections for the workers, and we're going to make sure the government doesn't get scammed. Because what happened was you have court rulings all the way to the Supreme Court that say, listen, you cannot pop these corporations for false claims if you're still paying them for their contracts.
Yeah, the argument is called materiality, and it's a ridiculous argument. We talk all the time about how dangerous it is. We pay attention to who wins in legislature, who wins for the president, but these courts, they change laws that are good they're good laws, they're solid laws, and these cats come in and say, oh no, you know, most of these federal judge appointments, like it or not, come from corporate America. They're silk stocking lawyers that work for defense firms. Nothing changes about the way they view the world. They think that the consumers are riffraff and that corporations are always right. In this situation, they took the fangs out of this law, right?
Yeah, because they said, listen, fraud is exposed, but then the government makes any more payments on that contract, as they're legally obligated to do,
sure,
then of course you can't say that they defrauded you because you're still using their services. And in most instances, when you're talking about, for instance, a defense contractor, you can't just immediately sever that contract. You do still need their services, or else you're going without vital, potentially, life-altering services in many of these instances. And the judges saw that loophole
as an opportunity.
Yep, and they used it and took all of the teeth out of this.
See, we want to think you got a federal judge up in a black robe. He's just down the middle. Right. Nothing is further from the truth. I think the last three administrations, there were more corporate types appointed to the federal judiciary than any time in American history. And we want to think, oh, well, when they put on the black robe, they're going to really care about consumers that they've spent their entire career trampling on as corporate lawyers. And this is a great example. And unfortunately, there's going to have to be a regroup on this because, you know what? You have corporations that were involved in Afghanistan that stole more money. It was blinding the amount of money that they stole. And these judges are giving them a free pass because they said, well, you know, if they stole, you shouldn't have made another payment. Really, a bureaucracy is going to adjust to that quickly.